It's noon here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And this is news that you can use. No, what is this? Is CarEdge Live. It's CarEdge Live, damn it, for Monday, June 16th. I almost screwed that up as well with your host. You might think I was the one that was out of the country for a week and I'm exhausted, and it's you. But your hosts are me, Ray, and my good-looking son, Zach. How are you today, handsome?
I'm tired, man, but happy Monday. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Happy Father's Day yesterday, Dad. Did you have a good Father's Day?
I did indeed. Yes. Nice. I spent it with some friends of ours had a lovely dinner. Yeah, it's lovely.
Good. Yeah. Glad to hear that. Well, happy Father's Day to everyone in the CarEdge community who is a father yesterday. Now, Dad, today's big story, we're going to talk about Audi, Mazda, Ram, and Hyundai and how they're ringing the alarm bell. We'll get into that in just a moment. We should
individually or collectively?
Individually and collectively, so stay tuned for that. And I should mention today's show is brought to you by CarEdge.com. If we can help you out with anything, folks, check it out, CarEdge.com. We'll be talking about our friends over at Delete Me in a little bit here as well. Thank you to them for their sponsorship. But if we can help you with anything, CarEdge.com. Now, the big story this morning, Dad, is we got the latest and greatest new car inventory data from Cox Automotive, and I want to break it down with you. New vehicle sales normalized, dealers manage leaner lots amid tariff uncertainty. We have a significantly fewer number of vehicles on hand at dealer inventory than we have had recently. 2.47 million vehicles in dealer inventory. This number had been close to 3 million vehicles in inventory. However, Dad, the kicker here, these 70 days supply, we're going to break that down in just a couple moments. And when I scroll down to this chart, which I really love that Cox Automotive puts this out every single month, this is the days supply of inventory broken out by brand. Yes. I'm going to remove the comments from the screen for a moment here so you can see over there on the right.
Yes.
There's some brands that have over a 100 days supply of inventory, even as total available inventory levels have shrunk. You've got Volkswagen with a 100 days supply of inventory, Mazda with a 107 days supply, Ram 109, Hyundai at 112, Land Rover at 114, and Audi, Dad, with an astounding 126 days supply of inventory. So we're going to break down all this data, but I'll shut up here. Audi, Mazda, Ram, and Hyundai are ringing the alarm bell. Do you agree?
Would you be mad at me if I didn't necessarily
agree? That's what this show exists to debate.
I agree on Audi, Mazda, and Ram, and I don't agree on Hyundai. And the reason I don't agree on Hyundai is Hyundai has shown significant month-over-month, year-over-year sales increases for like the last 10, 12 months. So even though their inventory levels might be up, their sales pace has been stronger than it's ever been. You look at that chart, and Kia, their sister brand, was 67 days supply. So I think on the day supply for Hyundai Kia, I think it's more strategic than anything. I think when it comes to Mazda and Audi and Ram, not so much. I think particularly at Mazda, they're probably a little bit shocked at what's happening with their day supply based on what increases they had seen in sales in March and April, and then a rather significant decline in May. Ram, even though their day supply is up, they're probably happy because it's down from what it had been. And Audi is probably at this point just struggling to a certain degree with too much inventory, and obviously most of that inventory is unaffordable for most people.
All right, so there's your assessment on it. Let's go up to the big top level number, which is the 2.47 million vehicles in inventory and the 70 days supply. We'll talk about average listing price in just a little bit. This 2.47 million, Dad, as of June 2nd, is down over 500,000 vehicles from where it had been just a few months ago. Yet the days supply at 70 is down as well from where it had been. It had been in the upper 70s, but it's still quite high for the industry. And you would anticipate and you should maybe break this down. Can you please break this down?
Yes.
That typically, as the inventory levels would go down, days supply should theoretically go up because there are fewer vehicles for sale. That must mean, however, that fewer people are buying cars, right? That's the indication here.
Yeah, you would think if the inventory is 500,000 vehicles less than what it had been, you would think the day supply number would get smaller, not bigger. So,
And here's a perfect example, Dad. This was March that I'm about to flash on the screen.
yeah,
So back in March, we had 2.69 million vehicles in inventory and a 70 days supply. So let that sit for a second there. You had 200,000 more vehicles available, but the same days supply. So it's an indication that there are fewer people buying cars.
absolutely. And I was going to say, you're look at the average listing price back in March compared to the average listing price in June, and that's an $800 or $900 difference. So what we've seen, okay, is we have seen inventories decline. We have seen average listing prices go up. We have seen days supply stay the same, which would indicate, because of the $900 average listing price increase, that fewer people can afford to buy the existing cars that are out there. So the rate of sales is slowing down. And some of it is, and I know in the article they talk about, well, how tariff pricing hasn't really impacted things yet. I don't know. We're looking at June, and the average listing price is $48,833, and 60 days prior it was $47,900 something. So how can you state in that article that, well, we haven't seen any impact from tariff increases yet? If average or listing prices have gone up $900, that means something's gone up $900.
Dad, let's go take a trip down memory lane for a moment here. We're going to look back even further in history, and we're going to go back. We're looking at on February 3rd.
Okay.
February 3rd, there were 2.92 million vehicles in inventory and a 96 days supply of vehicles on dealer lots. If we go back to the beginning of March, we had 2.99 million vehicles in inventory and an 89 days supply. How could the days supply have dropped even though the total vehicles in inventory went up? That was when people were purchasing vehicles pre-tariff. Okay, that was the pre-tariff flight. Now I'm going to jump back to February, beginning of February for a moment here, because I want to scroll down and I want to look at that days supply of inventory by brand. And I want to highlight some of those brands that we mentioned earlier in the show. For example, you can see here, Dad, Audi had a 114 days supply back then. Audi still today, I'm going to come back over here. Audi still today has a 126 days supply. So that's just like a clear as day indication that people are not buying Audis right now. Audi has too much inventory and people haven't been buying them and they continue to not buy them. If I come back over, Mazda inventory was at 123, still above 100 right now. You can see Ram here, 120, still above 100 right now as well. And Hyundai had been up at 133, and again, still over 100 right now. So it's interesting to look back at the data from beginning of this year, pre-tariff pull ahead demand. And these brands were struggling then. And now they continue to struggle. And they're the brands that are struggling the most at the moment, which is why I say they're ringing the alarm bell, because they really don't have a choice other than to really drastically lower their prices to try and sell this inventory in a market where theoretically they should be able to have pricing power.
Okay, so let me be a contrarian for just a moment. Do you lower your prices, or do you ultimately lower your production to artificially deplete days supply? And we know that the overall market, there's 500,000 less cars available for sale than just 60 or 70 days ago.
Yep.
So I'm guessing that in some of these cases they're going to limit production to bring that number down, because I'm guessing they're thinking that as we experience less and less inventory, there is going to be less need to reduce pricing, because the pie is smaller and the people that are buying will have fewer choices than they had before. And so they just very well might have to pay up for what it is that they want. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see production changes as opposed to price cuts or incentive growth. I think at this point, most of these manufacturers are kind of like taking a wait and see attitude, and they are going to see where it all kind of sort of levels out before they decide how it is they're going to approach it in the future.
I think you could be onto something, Pops. Let's take a moment here to thank the sponsor of today's fine program, and that comes from the team over at Delete Me. Dad, you and I know it well. There are data brokers out there selling our information online, and anyone can purchase it. Things like your phone number, social security number, and home address are sold online, and they're available to marketers, scammers, and those elusive folks in between. Now, Delete Me, the sponsor of today's show, helps you take control over your data. If you're not using Delete Me, you should. My dad and I both use Delete Me, and they remove our personal information from hundreds of data brokers on our behalf. You can get started today and get 20% off with the coupon code CarEdge. Just go to joindeleteme.com/CarEdge or click the link in the top of the description. And again, every single day, I log into my Delete Me account and I see all the thousands of listings that they have removed my information from online. Appreciate the fine folks over at Delete Me. Dad, we've had a couple comments come in.
Yeah.
I want to pull them up here. Dan
Yes.
shared this earlier in the show. Who cares about the amount you can negotiate off a vehicle if it is, well, overpriced, lacks quality, doesn't look good on the road, and it has a poor residual value? And then this response to Dan says absolutely right about that. By artificially increasing the price to consumers, getting a deal still is a ripoff. How does this reconcile with what you were sharing just before?
How does it reconcile? Well, we know prices have gone up. And we know there were significant price increases during the chip shortage in 2021, 2022. And we know during that chip shortage that the manufacturers just produced predominantly their high profit margin vehicles. Whatever the price is relative to whatever it was doesn't matter. Okay. What matters is how much you can get off. If it's overpriced in your mind, and most things probably are, so if it's overpriced, would you rather pay the full asking price, or would you rather get a $5, $6, $7, $8, $10,000 discount and then complain that, well, I know I'm still paying too much because it was overpriced to begin with? I don't know how you have it both ways. Okay. A deal, in my mind, is when there are some type of significant savings here. And
yeah, but I think the point in the comment that I heard, Dad, was more there's really been a lot of reasons, a lot of justifications, whether they're real or unreal, to raise prices of vehicles. And now that you have that, you can still get that perceived deal that you're talking about, but it's from an artificially high price point. And I think that's super valid take.
I think the prices are what the prices are, and either you can get a discount or you can't get a discount. And if you can get a discount and you're saving money, that would normally constitute some type of deal. I don't really recall always comparing the deal you get today with what the asking price was of something 10 years ago. There is a baking company in the Philadelphia area called Tasty Cake, and they make some of the best snack baked goods in America. Okay, they're chocolate cupcakes and their junior whatever. People will go, well, yeah, they're like $6 for. Well, I remember when I paid $0.25 for them. Okay, great. I'm 74 years old. Of course, I can remember the days when the damn things were only $0.25. I can remember the days when you could go to a movie and it was $2.50. I'm not living in those days anymore, and neither is anybody else. So regardless of what prices were in 2019 or 2020, the reality is this is what the prices are in 2025. and either you can get a discount or you can't get a discount, and you can't just complain that, well, it's so overpriced compared to what it was 6 years ago. Well, it isn't 6 years ago anymore, Toto. It just isn't. So I think you have to deal with the reality of the present. And the present is, these are the prices. And people have shown, a limited number of people, but enough people have shown that not only are they willing to spend these prices, but they are doing it in enough numbers that the manufacturers are still making a nice profit, and so are dealers.
I like this comment from Brad. You only get significant discounts on cars that are not desirable. Is this really a deal? If you are getting a big discount, then is that an inferior product? Then is it an inferior product at too high of a price in comparison to better cars? Big discounts are trying to influence you to purchase an inferior product. That's been the pricing strategy over at Jeep and Ram for as long as I can remember. They're going to jack the prices up and you're going to get 15% off MSRP. The perception of a deal versus the reality of a deal. What's your take on this? And then we will look back at some of the other data points here in just a second.
Well, part of the problem has been that for years and years and years, everything was overpriced when it came to automotive. And every one of your domestic manufacturers incentivized the deals through rebates and other forms of incentives. Upwards of 11 to 12% of the average transaction price was actually covered by the manufacturer. So the concept of a deal was set many decades ago, where whatever the price was and then whatever the rebate was. And so the higher you could make the price, the bigger you could afford to make the rebate to make it look like, at Ram and some of the other brands that were given 15% or 18 or 20% off. Well, yeah, those are relatively inflated prices when you do. That is a marketing tool. I get it. But when we went through a period of time where the incentives shrank to about 2.5% to 3% of the transaction price, the manufacturers weren't in the position to where they were willing to eat 10 or 15% of the asking price. And the public, unfortunately, was out there still buying the damn things anyway. So I don't know what the answer is. Part of it was marketing, and then part of it became greed during the chip shortage. And dealers added on top of what the manufacturers were doing. So if you don't want to compare it, then just pay what the hell the dealer's asking for the car, and you don't have to worry about it. Because either way, you're going to overpay. Either way, you're going to pay what they're asking for it and not get a discount and go, well, it's an overpriced piece of crap to begin with. Or you can negotiate and get some money off and still go, well, it's an overpriced piece of crap either way. If you're saving money, you're saving money. I'm sorry. I don't know any other way to look at it.
Let's come here. As inventory volume declines, auto dealers are likely enjoying some pricing power and arguably the balance of having enough options on the showroom floor for customers while containing floor plan expenses on excess volume, which was lower at the end of May compared to the end of April. So generally right now, this mix of inventory is good news for dealers, pricing power, and not too much inventory that's costing them too much money. Notably, next model year vehicles, model year 2026, begin to show up in the market around this time of year. In 2023 and 24, nearly 7% of available inventory consisted of next model year units. However, end of May data shows that the current inventory of next model year vehicles makes up only about 3% of available units right now. With uncertainty around where tariffs will land, the lack of next model year vehicles is likely because automakers are buying time as they carefully consider cost increases, as model year changeover is an opportune time to adjust pricing. Interestingly, BMW and Genesis dealers have a larger portion of 26 models, with nearly a third of their available inventory being next model year units. BMW shows a 2% month-over-month increase in new vehicle listing price, while Genesis remains flat. Mitsubishi, on the other hand, has 40% of their inventory tied up in prior model year vehicles, and their listing prices are unchanged from a month earlier. So this is an interesting dynamic as well, Dad. Now is the time of year when we would anticipate those next model year vehicles coming to dealers' lots. However, they're not in as much volume as they have in the past, obviously with the exception here being BMW and Genesis. And to your point earlier in the show, most of these automakers taking a wait and see approach on pricing. You can see here the average new vehicle listing price for the end of May increased a percentage point to $48,883. It's 3.2% higher than the same time last year. It may seem counterintuitive given the impact of tariffs, but the truth is most automakers are keeping a steady eye on market share and holding off on portfolio-wide price increases. In the meantime, some are pulling back on incentives and or increasing delivery fees. There were no real standouts in May for price increases or decreases, reinforcing the message that whoever blinks first will be the guinea pig on how much the market will bear an increased price. Interesting.
It is. And you know, one of the reasons I believe that there aren't nearly as many 2026 model year vehicles is simply because the manufacturers have held off producing them because they want to see what's going to happen. And if we have seen some brands announce price increases, Subaru announced price increases across the board. Hyundai announced price increases across the board. Ford has announced some price increases. So we know that as much as they're trying to mitigate the amount of price increase, there's still going to be a price increase. And I guess the key is to see at what point does the buying public say no more, no mas?
Yep.
Is it when the average new car transaction price crosses the $50,000 barrier, which will be soon? So there might be a point where the public just goes no more. That it's too high. We're done. We're going to keep what we have. We're going to fix what we have, and we're going to wait and for the prices to come down.
Is that not to a degree what we're seeing with the brands mentioned in the headline of today's show, Audi, Mazda, Ram, and Hyundai? Because what we looked at before is they have the highest days supply of inventory right now amidst fewer vehicles on their lots, meaning fewer vehicles for sale, but fewer people purchasing them. So aren't those the brands that are demonstrating that those customers are saying, no mas, no more, prices are too high, incentives aren't enough?
Well, I don't think that is the case or has been the case for Hyundai.
So take Hyundai out of it, but Audi, Mazda, Ram, the fact that we know Mazda decreased their incentives last month.
Yes, and we know their sales dropped dramatically.
And look at Audi. Audi's days supply is through the roof, the highest in the industry.
I think there is some degree that we are seeing it on some brands. Yeah. Other brands, not so much. I'm telling you, I believe it. The good folks at Audi must have been shocked to see how May turned out, because even if their incentives were a little lower in May, the value for the dollar on Mazdas is some of the best in the industry. Sure. For consumers. So it's, there you're looking at a brand that's trying to go modestly upscale to some degree, yet really value pricing their vehicles, had seen incredible growth for the last 8 to 10 months, and then suddenly in May it all fell apart. So somebody's got to be going, why? Is it really just the incentives that have kept us moving forward? Now, when it comes to Audi, it's, Audi's never tried to be the most affordable of the three major German brands, being Mercedes, BMW, and Audi. When I worked with Audi, they weren't interested in having the least expensive leases available. That wasn't the play box they wanted to play in, the sandbox that they wanted to play in. They want to produce what they consider to be a high quality car at a reasonable price, and they expect consumers to pay for it. And obviously, consumers are stepping away. Is it because of there's too much in the way of EVs? Is it because just the overall price structure of Audis is significantly higher than most people can afford. I don't know.
I don't
But
think it's an EV story at all, Dad, because the brands that we're talking about, maybe Hyundai actually is the one that's leaned in most on that powertrain. When you look at Audi, I mean, they're struggling to move things like the A8 sedan. It's one of the slowest selling cars in the United States, the A5, the Q5. Like, they have a variety of vehicles. They had to do a massive price increase on the Q5. That's definitely not helping them with the new model year. I mean, remember that? What's the Q5
yeah,
price increase? It was like $10,000 or something like that.
something
So
like, yeah.
yeah, so I do think these brands, maybe I missed the mark by tossing Hyundai into this, but for Audi, Mazda, and Ram, they are ringing the alarm bell. They are saying, what the heck is going on? Their customers are the leading indicator for what we think is going to happen more broadly in the automotive industry, which is they're stepping away. They're not purchasing their vehicles, and they're having to come up with alternative solutions to sell cars, which at the end of the day means eventually lowering the prices. At least that's the only way we
or
know how to do
or
it.
or allowing the inventory to dwindle.
Yeah, and to be clear, when inventory dwindles, that's bad for consumers because that means now the manufacturer's not using their manufacturing capabilities to produce vehicles. They're purposefully withholding inventory, which is that leading indicator of model year 2026 inventory being at 3%, whereas this time last year it was at 7%. It's already happening. The
Yeah.
manufacturers are saying, you know what, we're just going to stop producing vehicles and let the cars that we do have sit on dealer lots. That's a scary situation for consumers because then you're giving all the pricing power to the dealer.
And if you look at the numbers closely, that seems to be the direction that they've chosen to go. We know the percentage of incentives as part of the transaction prices is a little bit lower than what it had been. We know the inventory levels are off by 500,000 vehicles.
Yeah.
So it seems at first blush that the manufacturers are saying, we're going to let the inventory dwindle. It might take a little longer than we would like because we're not going to support moving it as quickly as we had in the past, but we're going to let it dwindle. And we're going to let it get to a number where the dealers have a little more pricing power, the manufacturers suddenly have a little more pricing power, and they won't have to incentivize the sales as significantly. And then ultimately what it does is it cuts down the floor plan expense for dealerships because they won't have as many vehicles on the ground. So they won't have to pay all that interest on those vehicles. So, maybe, just maybe, the manufacturers are figuring out how to return to lower inventory levels, higher profit margins, lower total expense by producing a few less vehicles.
Yeah, it does certainly seem that way. Earlier in the show, from Orange Rubber Duck, he said, would be good to see these numbers by area and region. I want to remind everyone that one of the best things we've ever done back
Yes.
at CarEdge.com is we built a car search platform that allows you to see all of these insights in one place. So you can use that to inform your car buying process. Go to CarEdge.com, click on Shop New or Shop Used. And when you're using the CarEdge car search, it doesn't matter what vehicle you click on, whether it's new, used, or something else, you can click on that vehicle. And then we will give you, if you're part of CarEdge Insights, the market insights for that vehicle. So it'll show you the target range that vehicle should be selling for, the dealer invoice price for that specific vehicle, the market days supply in your area within 100 miles of this vehicle, how many have sold similar vehicles in the past 45 days, the total number of similar vehicles for sale, the discount you should be shooting for. So these market insights are available for CarEdge Insights users back on CarEdge.com, as well as you can see what other CarEdge customers have been able to negotiate in terms of savings, whether it be users or concierge customers. The out-the-door price calculator, you can get your monthly payments, your incentives are here as well, safety ratings. There's so much information here back on the CarEdge.com car search. And if you're not using that information, well, shame on you. It's there for you. Please take advantage of it. And from Robert Dad earlier in the show asking, can the CarEdge car buying service be used when buying a commercial vehicle? Absolutely. CarEdge.com/concierge. We have a car buying service. We'd be happy to work on your behalf, Robert, whether it's a personal, commercial, does not matter. We can help you with that back at CarEdge.com. All right, Dad, there were a couple more stories today, so let's jump into one quickly here. We're going to talk about Nissan for a second.
Yes.
Nissan plans to reduce stake in Renault to invest in new vehicle development, report says. Dad, Nissan's cash struggles continue.
Mm.
selling a 5% stake here so they can continue to fund operations. The Nissan story still not looking good.
No, selling a 5% stake, and I think that's going to generate, what was it, 644 million or 654 million dollars of cash. Along with the efforts to try and sell their headquarters.
Yeah.
So it would indicate, it indicates to me that they're in a poor cash flow situation at the moment, and so they need to get some cash. So sell some of that damn stock so you can have some cash on hand so you can continue to run the business. And we're going to take that money and we're going to use it for future vehicle development or to survive until we can figure out a way to get some more money. But that's what it indicates. So, hopefully, that selling that 5% stake and raising 644 or 654 million dollars is enough. My guess is it's not. They lost, what was it, 2 point some billion dollars. So 600 some million is a far cry from what they lost, and my guess is that they're still burning through cash. So it will be interesting to see what happens. Hopefully there'll be a white knight somewhere for them that comes along and says, okay, here's 4 billion or 5 billion or whatever it is that you think you need, so that you can keep this thing afloat and maybe headed in the direction that you wanted to be headed in.
I do find it interesting that 2 weeks ago, we're talking about Nissan selling their headquarters to get enough cash to sustain their operations. And now we're talking about Nissan selling their stake in a different automaker to sustain their operations. It is interesting. I'm looking here in my area. So this is near College Park, Maryland, outside Washington, D.C. And the first page here are a bunch of Nissan vehicles. Let's click on a few, Dad, and let's look at those current market conditions. So I've got a Nissan Pathfinder here, a Nissan Sentra under $25,000. Let's find a Nissan Rogue on this page as well. Wow, the Murano gets expensive, $43,000. But let's find one of those Rogues. Wait for it. There we go. We've got $47,000 Nissan Rogue. And the reason I click on this is I want to see, okay, an 89 days supply. I actually thought this number would be a heck of a lot higher. It is mind-boggling, though, to me how expensive some of these Nissans.
So that's a Pathfinder.
This is a Pathfinder, but before I was on a Rogue. On a
Rogue. I want to see that Rogue. Go.
Yeah, we're on the Rogue right here.
Okay, what is it?
It's a 2025 Nissan Rogue with a $47,820 MSRP. Inexplicably.
How could that be? I mean, how do you get a Rogue that expensive? It just seems, doesn't that seem a tad bit ludicrous for a Rogue?
It does. I will remind everyone that you can get the window sticker for free back on the CarEdge Car Search as well. So you could just click right there for that. Dad, the dealer invoice cost on this is $45,234. But again, this Rogue, which is $47,000, only has an 89-day supply. So that's actually surprisingly low. Then you've got the Pathfinder, which is a 96 days supply. We've got the Sentra, which is a $24,000 vehicle with a 91 days supply. So this actually, let's check out the Altima here. Altima's got a $30,000 MSRP, a 63 days supply. So Nissan's actually doing a little bit better than I had anticipated here locally in the DMV in terms of inventory levels.
Wow. I can't get over the fact that, if you were to include a $2,500 tip to your salesperson, you could get a $50,000 Rogue.
This is orange rubber ducky, though, Ray. That's exactly what was being discussed about the deals. I think that's a fair point. Is it really a deal if you're getting a discount on a $47,000 platinum trim Nissan Rogue?
Okay. If you're getting a 10% discount on that $47,000 Rogue and you're saving $4,700, is that a deal? I don't think a Rogue's ever worth that kind of money, but I'd rather be paying $43,000 for it if I were to buy it than to spend $47,000 for it. So it's all relative, I suppose. It's, but I just think the ultimate amount that you end up paying for it is what is determinative of whether or not you're getting some type of deal or discount. So yes, I agree that there shouldn't be a Rogue out there that's $47,000. Not unless it came, everything was gold plated. But like I said, I'd rather be able to save 4,000 on it than have to pay the 47.
All right, now we're just gonna have some Nissan fun. Look at the Armada if you want real sticker shock, or we've got from David the Murano Platinum. All right, we're back to the CarEdge machine, y'all. Let's have some fun here for a moment. All right, let's go back to the shop page. Give me a second here. All right, let's see here. So we're gonna do Nissan
Armada.
Gotta do Armada. All right, let's see. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
$72,300, $77,290. Let's look at this one. Let's click on it. The invoice or the MSRP on a 2025 Nissan Armada, this one was the Platinum, $77,290. The invoice price $71,630. 126 days supply. Makes sense.
Yeah, and I guess you could buy the comparable Infinity, and it'll be a little over 80. And if you don't like that, go buy a Suburban that would be 90. I don't know. But yes, Nissan does offer some fairly overpriced vehicles. Yes, but so does every manufacturer.
All the automakers do.
Yes.
From Shannon, thank you, Shannon. We
May I
appreciate
say
it.
one thing?
Of course.
Shannon, congratulations, bless you. Shannon used our concierge services to get his new car. I couldn't be happier for him. And longtime follower and friend of the channel. So congratulations and thank you.
With my BMW research that I did, it seemed that it's dealer by dealer on how many of the popular models they have on the lot in order to control negotiations. I had Jammer on my side, though. Yes, incredible job by Jammer on our team with the concierge service. I'm so grateful that we were able to help you out, Shannon, and thank you for continuing to be a member of our community here. Really, really appreciate it. We have from Jem Sardad, Zach, what cars are being driven in Greece? I'm trying to think, Dad. There were a lot of Renaults.
Yeah.
What are they? Darcias, I think. Is that the brand?
Darcia, I think, is a Spanish car, but
yeah, they have those there.
Yeah. I believe Darcia is actually owned by the VW group.
Lots of Mercedes-Benz.
Okay.
Yeah, like a lot of the cabs were like E-Class Mercedes-Benz. They're just everywhere. Peugeots, lots of Peugeots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say the cars in Greece for anything to write home about.
Okay.
They were cars. They got you from point A to point B.
At a certain point, that's all that really matters, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, I did not notice a lot of electric vehicles. There were definitely not a lot of electric vehicles.
Yeah.
So that's something I observed. Definitely not a lot of EVs.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. All right, Pops. Well, how about with this? We're going to call that a show. We'll bring back the phone calls later this week. I'm just a little tired and fatigued. Yesterday was a 18-hour travel day for me. Or 2 days ago.
It was the day before yesterday was an 18-hour travel day.
Yeah, so I'm just a little bit fatigued and want to get some work done today. But we will be back doing call-ins and all the like later this week. We appreciate everyone that has tuned in. And of course, if we can help you with anything, checking out back at CarEdge.com. As a friendly reminder, back on the website, we have very myriad resources, new car search, used car search, the whole research center is a great reminder, a great tool for you that I want to remind you about. The What's My Car Worth? Track your vehicle value, auto insurance, warranties. Skip the dealership with our car buying services, dealer invoice price. There's so many offers back on CarEdge.com. Please take advantage of them. And Dad,
yes,
we'll be back here doing it all again tomorrow with more CarEdge Live. I'm fairly certain.
Either that or it'll be CarEdge news that you can use. One of the two, depending upon how far back my brain goes in the Wayback Machine.
We'll see y'all back here tomorrow. Love you, Dad.
Love you too. Thanks, everybody. Yeah.